Distinguished representatives, please regain your seats. I call to order the 7th plenary meeting of the 20th session. At this meeting, the Assembly will first hear the progress reports by the coordinators and then hear the introduction of draft resolutions. So we will turn first to the progress reports by coordinators. I would now like to give the floor to the coordinator of the working group on the program budget, Ambassador Ms. Frances Galati-Elanitou Williams from Cyprus. You have the floor, Ambassador. I don't know where you are, but you have the floor. Cyprus has the floor.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, thank you for giving me the floor. The budget coordinator, who had another pressing commitment, has asked me to report on her behalf on the progress attained on the budget discussions. On behalf of the budget coordinator, I am pleased to inform you all that after extensive consultations, we reached consensus yesterday afternoon on the budget of the court for 2022. We conveyed the draft budget resolution to states parties yesterday evening under a silence procedure which ended early this morning. No comments were received, thus I'm pleased to announce that the draft budget resolution will be submitted for consideration of the Assembly in document ACC-ASP20/L4. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank you very much for this update, and I hope you can transmit our appreciation to the Ambassador for the hard work she has put in this resolution. And now I propose that the Assembly take note of the status of the consultations on the budget. I am pleased that the working group was able to successfully conclude its work. Now, we will now hear an update on the Omnibus resolution. I give the floor to Mr. Matteo Facchinotti, Switzerland, who will speak on behalf of the coordinator, Mr. Vincent Rittener. Switzerland has the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je prends la parole au nom du coordinateur, Monsieur Vincent Rittener, qui se trouve actuellement à New York. Et j'ai le plaisir de rapporter que les consultations sur la résolution dite Omnibus ont été terminées avec succès. La procédure de silence sur le projet de résolution n'ayant pas été rompue. Je me réjouis donc d'introduire le projet de résolution dans quelques minutes au moment opportun. Merci Madame la Présidente.
I thank you very much. I am pleased that the coordinator was able to successfully conclude the consultations, and I propose that the Assembly take note of the status of the consultations on the Omnibus resolution. And now we turn now to the introduction of the draft resolutions. We are going to turn to the draft resolution on cooperation. I would now invite one of the co-facilitators for cooperation to introduce the draft resolution on cooperation contained in document ICC ASP20/L.3. I would give the floor to one of the co-facilitators, France or Senegal. France has the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. En raison de l'indisponibilité des deux co-facilitateurs ce matin, j'ai le plaisir de pouvoir m'adresser à cette Assemblée au nom de l'ambassadeur Louise Vassy et de l'ambassadeur Momar Gueye, ambassadeur de France et ambassadeur du Sénégal aux Pays-Bas, pour présenter le projet de résolution sur la coopération qui porte donc, si je ne me trompe pas, puisque je crois que cela sera transmis sous quelques secondes aux États parties, ASCC-ASP/20/L3. Le projet de résolution que vous aurez dans quelques instants devant vous présente et reflète le fruit des travaux de la facilitation sur la coopération qui ont été conduits cette année, mais aussi les années précédentes. Il intègre les principales conclusions concernant les enjeux de coopération auxquels les parties prenantes à ces travaux, c'est-à-dire les États parties, en étroite coordination avec les organes de la Cour et avec les représentants de la société civile, sont parvenus au fil des années et qui demeurent pertinentes. Ce projet de résolution a, comme chaque année avant tout, pour principal objectif de souligner l'importance d'une coopération globale et efficace de la part des États parties, des autres États, des organisations internationales et régionales, notamment afin de permettre à la Cour de s'acquitter pleinement de son mandat défini par le Statut de Rome. Il décline 7 impératifs généraux de la coopération selon différentes problématiques rassemblées en plusieurs sections thématiques. Il a été enrichi cette année de quelques dispositions pertinentes permettant de mettre en lumière les dernières avancées permises sous l'égide de la facilitation, telles que l'opérationnalisation de la plateforme numérique sécurisée relative à la coopération, la signature par un État partie d'un accord cadre de coopération en matière d'exécution des peines, les discussions également qui se sont tenues dans le cadre de l'évaluation de plusieurs recommandations du groupe d'experts indépendants sur la revue du fonctionnement de la CPI en matière de coopération, ou encore les travaux lancés par la Cour pour mettre en place un réseau de points focaux opérationnels des États parties pour renforcer la coopération avec la Cour en matière d'enquête financière, de localisation et de gel des avoirs. De plus, les facilitateurs sur la coopération ont proposé aux États parties, dans le cadre d'une procédure de silence, d'intégrer au projet de résolution un paragraphe supplémentaire qui permet de prendre acte de la séance plénière sur la coopération qui s'est tenue lors de cette 20e session de l'Assemblée, pas plus tard qu'hier, le 8 décembre, dont je vous fais la lecture. Se félicite de la session plénière sur la coopération qui s'est tenue au cours de la 20e session de l'Assemblée et qui a permis un échange de vues avec un groupe d'experts de haut niveau sur la coopération volontaire et aux États de partager leurs expériences en matière de signature d'accords de coopération volontaire avec la Cour, ainsi qu'une discussion plus technique sur la question des enquêtes financières et du gel des avoirs, tout en soulignant l'intérêt de mettre en place un réseau de points focaux opérationnels dans ce domaine. Je vous soumets donc le projet de résolution qui vous est présenté ce jour et qui a fait l'objet d'un accord par consensus au sein du groupe de la Haye à l'examen de l'Assemblée et recommande qu'il soit adopté par consensus. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Je vous remercie. I thank you for introducing the draft resolution on cooperation, and now I'll give the floor again to Cyprus to introduce the draft resolution on the program budget for 2022. You have the floor.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, thank you for giving me the floor. The 2022 proposed program budget was presented to the 20th session of the Assembly by the Registrar of the Court at the 4th plenary meeting, which was held this morning. The presentation of the budget proposal was followed by presentations from the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance and the External Auditor, as well as the Chair of the Audit Committee. The relevant documentation will be contained in Volume 2 of the official records of the 20th session. The draft resolution on the program budget for 2022, document ICC-ASP/20/L.4, dated 9 December 2021, has been distributed. Copies are also available at the conference officer's desk. The draft resolution contains 15 sections from A to O, addressing various aspects of the budget. The resolution has been discussed extensively during the informal consultations in the Hague Working Group, as well as in informal consultations held during this assembly. On behalf of the coordinator, it is my conclusion that there is common ground, and I therefore would like to submit the budget resolution for the consideration of the Assembly. On behalf of the coordinator, I would like to thank the Committee on Budget and Finance, the External Auditor, the Audit Committee, and the Court for their contributions. I would also like to thank all delegations for their flexibility in helping us reach a consensus on the draft resolution. The working group on the program budget met earlier this morning and agreed on its draft report. The draft report is submitted for adoption by the Assembly. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank you for introducing the draft resolution on the budget. And now we turn to the draft resolution on the review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system. I invite the focal point on the review mechanism, Ms. Paulina Ducik from Poland, to introduce the draft resolution titled Review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system, contained in document ICC-ASP/20/L.5, as well as the related draft outcome of the work of the study group on governance on recommendations of the group of independent experts contained in ICC-ASP/20/L.7. You have the floor, Ms. Ducik.
I have the honor, on behalf of the review mechanism, to introduce the draft resolution titled Review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute System, contained in document ICC-ASP/20/L.5. In the preambular paragraphs, the Assembly would, inter alia, recall the previous resolutions of the 18th and 19th session on the review of the Court, welcome the ongoing engagement of the Court and the designation of Court focal points, stress the statutory mandates of the organs of the Court and of the Assembly, and acknowledge the importance of the Bureau decision of 31st May 2021, by which it adopted the categorization of recommendations submitted by the review mechanism. In the operative paragraphs, the Assembly would, inter alia, welcome again the report and recommendations of the independent expert review, welcome the work of the Court, the review mechanism, the Bureau working groups, and the ASP mandate holders, and note the difficulties and adverse working conditions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. Underline the need to continuously observe and safeguard the judicial and prosecutorial independence of the Court and the integrity of the Rome Statute throughout the review process. Decide to extend the mandate of the review mechanism. Request the Court, through its focal points, to provide regular updates to the review mechanism on the progress achieved, including on any impediments, and to report to the Assembly ahead of its 21st session. Request the review mechanism, in close coordination with the Court focal points and the relevant Assembly mandate holders, to provide regular updates to all state parties. The resolution was negotiated in a spirit of cooperation and goodwill, for which the review mechanism thanks all state parties. The draft text was agreed by consensus, and the review mechanism submits this resolution to the Assembly and hopes that is adopted by consensus. Madam President, I also have the honor to introduce the draft outcome of the work of the study group on governance on recommendations of the group of independent experts contained in document ICC-ASP/20/L.7. The outcome relates to the work of the study group on governance on procedure to amend the rules of procedure and evidence, recommendations 381 to 384 of the group of independent experts, and on election of the registrar, recommendations 76 to 78. The recommendations are contained in the report of the study group on governance, ICC-ASP/20/21. The review mechanism thanks the study group on governance for its successful completion of the work on these IER recommendations. The mechanism notes that the recommendations on the two topics mentioned above were adopted by the study group on governance by consensus and subsequently adopted by the Bureau. The review mechanism submits the outcome of the work of the study group on governance, on procedure to amend the rules of procedure and evidence, and on election of the registrar for the consideration of the Assembly, and recommends that it is adopted by consensus. Thank you so much, Madam President.
I thank you. I thank you for introducing the draft resolutions. And now we turn to the draft resolution on strengthening the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system. And I now invite Mr. Matteo Facchinotti, Switzerland, to introduce the draft Omnibus resolution contained in document ICC ASP/20/L.6 on behalf of the coordinator of the Omnibus resolution, Mr. Vincent Rittener. You have the floor, sir.
Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les délégués, merci de me donner la parole. Au nom du coordinateur, M. Vincent Rittener, j'ai l'honneur d'introduire aujourd'hui le projet de résolution ICC-ASP/20/L6 sur le renforcement de la Cour pénale internationale et de l'Assemblée des États parties, plus communément appelée la résolution Omnibus. Ce projet de résolution, daté du 7 décembre 2021, contient 22 sections traitant des différents aspects relatifs au renforcement de la Cour et de l'Assemblée des États parties. Je relève que cette version comporte encore une place réservée pour le paragraphe relatif à la séance plénière sur la coopération qui s'est tenue hier. Comme de coutume, ce paragraphe sera intégré dès son approbation par cette Assemblée. Le texte introduit ce jour est le fruit de consultations approfondies conduites dans le cadre du groupe de travail de New York. Sur la base de ces consultations, le coordinateur conclut qu'un consensus a pu être trouvé sur ce projet de résolution, que je soumets donc en son nom aux États parties pour adoption. Au nom du coordinateur, je tiens à remercier le secrétariat de l'AEP pour son soutien constant tout au long de cette facilitation, ainsi que les délégations pour leur participation active et pour leur approche constructive. Sur cette base, nous espérons que cette résolution pourra être adoptée par cette Assemblée par consensus. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Je vous remercie d'avoir introduit le projet de résolution Omnibus. And now we have heard the introduction of the draft resolutions of the 20th session. In order to allow sufficient time for the election of the deputy prosecutors, the adoption of resolutions will now be held at an earlier plenary, that is, the plenary to be held at 3 p.m. today. In light of this, I would like to propose that the Assembly waive its practice that delegations received the draft resolutions at least 24 hours before taking action on the draft. This would allow us to take action this afternoon. Does the Assembly agree to proceed accordingly? I thank you. So we will therefore proceed to take action on the draft resolutions at the 8th plenary meeting to be held today at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I thank you for this. And now we turn to the election of the members of the Advisory Committee on Nomination of Judges. We shall revert to this item 15. At our first plenary meeting, you may recall, we decided to defer consideration of this item to allow for consultations in order to reach the consensus called for under the terms of reference of the Advisory Committee set out in document ICC ASP/10/36. I indicated yesterday that despite all efforts, no consensus had been found with relation to one candidate. I also underlined that the Advisory Committee on the Nomination of Judges is an important component in strengthening the Rome Statute system. This was recognized by the independent expert review, which also made a specific recommendation on the need to discuss the qualifications of candidates in recommendation 380. Indeed, discussions in that context would allow for a collective reflection on the required qualifications. But in the meantime, we must appoint the members of the Advisory Committee on Nominations. The Bureau discussed the matter extensively this morning, and we all urge you we urge all those concerned to approach the matter in a constructive and inflexible manner so as to find an appropriate solution. The Bureau discussed the possible way forwards and explore options to ensure that we can proceed to establish this important committee. But before going further into these options, I would first ask whether any delegation would like to take the floor at this point. Yes, I see Croatia. Croatia, you have the floor.
Am I being, yeah, I can speak. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak and explain our position as well. But let me to begin with saying that this delegation concur with most of the facts and what during your introduction. We consider this committee being of extreme importance, critical one in a decision of whom to elect as judges. That is why we have given a great deal into looking into each and every candidates, and then at the beginning I can say that we can go along with 8 of the proposed candidates, which means that we can proceed to confirmation of 8 candidates. But as you rightly said, and knowing this on our exchanges, we have a strong reservation concerning the nomination of one candidate, that one being from Serbia. Our view is, Madam Chair and distinguished colleagues, based on requirements on term of reference, which are needed for the position of, which are needed for the membership of this committee. There are several of the requirements spelled out in these terms of reference. Among them, let me just briefly address one, that one being the candidate's capacity to act independently. That one, Madam Chair, we find lacking in this candidacy, namely the candidate who is retreating position of a national foreign ministry can hardly qualify as being independent candidate. So there are the other considerations which we thought, and we were proposing that along with confirmation of these 8 candidates, our strong reservation and a concern concerning this candidacy be better addressed and discussed within this review mechanism, and the importance of whom, and this the entire process which is coming next year, importance of which we can't underestimate. So, Madam Chair, we have seen also, speaking on this, and you rightly pointed out, of course, and you are looking for integrity of the process, and this committee, Advisory Committee on Nominations, as I said, this is a critical body. For us, this is not a technical platform through which nominations will be maybe either streamlined or distributed or briefly addressed. For us, because we have seen that during the past year since its establishment, this committee has acquired a substantive power to the extent that some people are now questioning whether the elections by state parties is needed after the candidates for the judges are being nominated by this committee. So if the judges have to be persons of a highest moral authority, and they bring a significant expertise into their position, we consider that this apply vice versa for the candidates of this committee. So, having said that, and being in a position that one member of the Bureau has said that it will be a block, all 9 candidacies, all 9 nominations, which we once again would like to underline that we can go along with 8 nominations, and not without wishing to compromise those 8 candidates. Among them, there are candidates of a outstanding background, and 2 of them whom I know personally, Professor Politi and Professor Kurula, who are outstanding and who can bring a wealth of experience and professionalism into this committee. Croatia, having lost a faith in integrity of these elections, would like to state officially that we would like to disassociate ourselves from these elections, and that this be recorded in official journal of this meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your intervention. I understand that you wish to disassociate yourself from the process of the election, and that this would need to be duly reflected on the official records of this session. We take note of this. Thank you very much. I would like to know whether any other delegation wishes to take the floor at this point. If not, I would propose that we elect by acclamation the members of the Advisory Committee on Nominations on this understanding. I see none. So on this understanding, I now propose to elect by acclamation Mr. Denis Dominique Adjei, Ghana, Mr. Julian Fernandez, France, Ms. Lucy Mutoni Kambuni, Kenya, Ms. Milica Kolakovic-Bojovic, Serbia, Mr. Erkki Kurula, Finland, Ms. Sanji Masenono Monaghan, Botswana, Mr. Mauro Politi, Italy, Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez Belce, Bolivia, and Mr. Sang-Hyu Song, Republic of Korea. I see no objection. The previously named 9 persons are therefore designated as member of the Advisory Committee on Nominations of Judges for a 3-year term commencing on 9 December 2021. I thank you all for this cooperation, and we have thus concluded our consideration of agenda item 15. And we have thus concluded our business for the 7th plenary meeting. Unless I see any requests for the floor, this meeting is adjourned. We will meet again at 3 p.m. sharp for the adoption of the resolutions. I thank you all.